Hello and welcome to the space. I am Sean Claxton. This is the place where we talk all things growth, change, and transformation, be it natural, spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional. Tonight, we are in for such a treat. We're going to be talking about emotional health, emotional wholeness, and a journey of how our guest this evening reached that place of understanding what emotional health and wholeness was and is and how it has affected her life. I would like to take a moment to introduce Miss Dee Brown. Dee is an educator. She is a daughter. She is a mother of two adult young men. She is a coach. She's an entrepreneur. She's an author. She holds a bachelor's in behavioral science and a master's in organizational management. She believes in health and wholeness, wellness. She believes in that to her core, and she is in touch with herself. I would like to take an opportunity to introduce to you Miss Dee Brown. And more than anything, she is my dearest and my best friend. And I am glad that you are with us on the platform this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us. We're going to jump right in. One thing you will find out about us, we have talked about so many things throughout our journey of friendship and sisterhood over the past 30 years. I'm sure we'll talk about how we met and then how our friendship has just evolved. One thing I found out is that she is a true, authentic person. What you see is what you get. She's going to share with you who she is. She's going to share with you what she likes. She's going to share with you what she doesn't like. And if you don't like that, she'll be like, sorry, but that's just it. This is who I am. But it's all in her being her authentic self. Years ago, she compiled a book called Naked in My Soul. And I'm going to start off with you sharing with us how this book came about and what made you begin to write Naked in My Soul.
But first of all, thank you for having me and thank you for sharing me with your audience. I'm going to try to tell this story short way home instead of the long way home. Um, it really all I've been writing most of my life as far back as I can remember, either reading or writing. I used to write short plays for fun, and I got into writing poetry too. And I used to just write. And then you get older and you just take a break from writing. Kind of was something I've. But I was blessed to have my mom in my life for 29 years. However, that short period of time comes to a woman growing into womanhood. And after that happened, I felt such a deep loss. There were so many things to share with my mom that I didn't share with her. And it began to bother me so much that I reached for pen. So I reached back to the thing that come for me, which was writing. And I just began to write from that point on. I happened to be in church one day, and I knew hiding a lot of things that I was feeling within me. And I just kind of looked around in the church and I started to think, well, if I'm hiding, they're probably hiding too. And then I just started to feel like real deeply for all of us. And that's where the first poem in the book, Woman, Where You came from. And I started to more and more started to be comforted by the writing. And I just kept writing, and I would write out God and write more poems. But all of the poems weren't about me. They were about the things that I was witnessing with my friends and people around situations. And I just kept writing. So you say, well, how did I and because it's a span of like 10 years, it wasn't ever supposed to become a book. It was me continuing to journal, trying to unravel my own emotional yarn, trying to find healing within myself. And as I began to get better, you can tell in the book where I started to get because the poems started to change, writings started to change. Um, and it became a book because I was getting ready for work one morning and I was listening to some podcast. They were talking about writing a book. And, as a person who reads and writes, I started to think, oh, I'm going to write a book. You just throw it out there. And I was thinking, what can I write about? And I heard the voice of God say, "You already have," and it stopped me, and I said, "I have a book." And then I said, "I have a book," and I went back to doing whatever I was doing here, and then I said, "You already have a book," and then I stopped and I said, "I'm not talking about my journey." You know, I literally said, "God," I said, "I know you are not talking about," and then the more I thought about it, I started to cry because I knew it was about my journal. And because whenever I feel something deeply pressed upon, like I know deeply, it right then I knew I had to publish a book. And I was like, well, everybody's gonna know my thoughts, everybody's gonna know what I've been going through, and everybody knows. And I just knew I had to do it to help somebody else heal, help somebody else's journaling my life. It would probably help somebody else. And so I just got comfortable with the idea that I wasn't going to change anything. I wasn't going to edit it to be politically correct and, you know, palatable. I was just going to publish it the way that I wrote it, and raw and me and open and exposed, which was also a part of my continuing healing. How it became an actual book, I just left it as it was and started from there.
I think that's good because many of us have probably written things down that we never thought we would ever publish or let anybody else see. But the fact that you are willing and you were willing to just say, this is me, and share that with the world. Where were you mentally, if you can say, how were you emotionally when you started writing this book?
When I started writing the book, I was an emotional mess. I was like a train wreck emotionally. And I did not even understand what emotional health was about. I didn't know what emotional well being was at all. I just knew it kind of came about as I went, you know, as I continued to um, explore my own thoughts and explore my own relationship. It just became what it became. And mind you, during the writing of this book, I got divorced in the middle of writing, you know, in what became a book. Um, I fell in love again in the middle of what became this book. Um, I went back to college in the middle of what, as I'm journaling. So I was living life. I was living a lot of life throughout the writing of this book, which wasn't a book, it was my actual journals. So there was a lot of life lived. And emotionally, I was trying to well. I was trying to be a better version of myself. I was trying to become the woman that my mother had intended for me to be. Um, all of those things. And so there came a point when I knew I had a certain pinnacle, so to speak. But little did I know that was just the tip of the iceberg, because it was years later that I began to really understand what emotional well-being was really about.
Okay.
Way after the book had been published.
So let's talk about that. When you talk about emotional well-being, emotional health, emotional wellness, what does that look like to you? And what are some of the things that people struggle with trying to get to a place of emotional stability?
Emotional emotional well-being is the one thing that we should all be trying to get. It takes us such a long time because what we think it is, it probably is. One of the things that I learned is the biggest part of emotional well-being is if we could just stop having expectations of other people and putting the burden of who we are trying to become on other people, that is a huge part of emotional well-being. That was a huge part of my relationship. I was so busy trying to get the people I was with to be who I needed to be rather than to become who I needed me to be. And when I discovered that, that was my true journey to emotional well-being. Stop over expecting from other people and start over expecting from your own self. Have a relationship with yourself deeper than what you're trying to out with other people. is the main thing when it comes to emotional well.
Often, we carry so much baggage from what people have wanted us to be, what has been instilled in us, some good, some bad, some good, some not so good. And we grow up with that as children. But when we become adults, young adults, older adults, we're trying to find ourselves. And a lot of times we don't know what that is because what we were groomed to be, or what we're trying to live out, what people think, we think people want us to be. And many of us are a wreck. You don't know how to do it. I remember years ago, I read this book. I believe it was called, I want to say it was called The Itch. And it was when she began to hit that 30 point and she began to grow, and what she had built was no longer what she wanted. And nobody understood. And she was trying to get out of this life, and she was making everybody around her miserable because she didn't even know what was happening. And oftentimes we don't, as we're growing and morphing, we don't know what's happening. And you need a guide, you need a helper, that when you can say, this is what's happening, and they can say, oh, you're starting to develop, you're starting to change, you're starting to evolve, and let that place be okay.
Right.
It's okay for you not to see it the same way somebody else saw it, or for you to think this is the way that everybody in my family has done it, and you don't want to do it that way, and you're trying to figure out how to do something different. And because different can be good, different doesn't always have to be bad.
Right.
You don't have to live in the mold that has been created or that we have seen, because we are our own individual person.
Right. Emotional well-being is really a very individual path, because they say what works for one person doesn't work for another person. And when we're trying to make sure that everything matches up as society has groomed us to be, and our parents and our best friends and our co-workers and everybody, and we want to show them the best side of us, we can find ourselves in a very we got so many different personalities for whoever we are around, and basically we're just pretending. There's nothing wrong with having an alter ego, because I actually love to experience that from time to time, depending on the room that you're in. But if you're somebody different with everybody you're around, at some point you have to look yourself in the face and say, who am I? Am I just a ball of pretense? And a ball of pretense does not produce an authentic life. And emotional well-being allows you to authentically become yourself. And it's something that you have to work with. It doesn't happen overnight. It just doesn't. You just have to work. And it's hard work. It's hard work to become your true self, because you have to sometimes stand in yourself alone, and people don't understand. They talk about you, and they may just not understand your goals or your journey, but it isn't for anybody to understand but you. And knowing that, you just have to have your own path and plan, and just know that you're going to get there. You're going to get to your own level of authenticity, and stop having so many expectations for other people. Not even your children. If you have grown children, small children, sometimes you just got to let their personalities be their personalities, and you stop overthinking what they should be and what they should become, and your mate and who he should be and what he should become or she should become, and all of these things, and just concentrate on how can I be the best of me, because sometimes this is really the truth. We want people to become them to be, so they can stay in our lives. Because if they're truly their ugly selves, we know we're going to ask them out. So sometimes we're just begging them to please be better, so I can keep you. No, what you need to do is you be better and let them be who they are, so you can make the right choice for yourself.
And two things popped in my head. So hopefully we can talk about them both. I remember it took me back to your children and how you allowed them to draw. And I think you helped them put this big mural up on their wall. And I thought, as most of us are like, don't write on the wall. You cannot color on the wall. And you were that mom that was like, put some paper down.
The whole room.
Splatter on the wall. Do what you want to do. It's your room. You were so free with them to let them develop.
Yes. I actually painted the whole room. Park scene. We had turtles, rabbits, and all trees all over the wall. We had a whole park scene all over the wall. So yes.
And I think that was freeing because many of us, this is the room that I've created for you. I need you to stay within the confines of what I've done, but you make a very intriguing room, or a very intriguing space for them to live in.
Yeah.
You talked about you being better and then seeing if people can fit into that. I have watched you, and I'm sure you will expound, begin to develop and find out that there have been people that no longer fit. And I've watched you say, you know what, I'm good. And not so much that I don't need you, but you no longer fit for where I am, and you're no longer healthy for me, and you set boundaries. What does boundaries look like, and how does that work with our emotional health?
Because I have fought so hard, because in my soul was a journey, but a fight. That me journaling was me fighting for my own well-being, my own mental health, because I was so close to not having good mental health ever again. If I've ever fought for anything, it was my mental health. That was a big depression that I was living through as I was writing that for many, many years, and I know you can attest to that. But I was fighting to keep from going over the edge, to keep from losing myself completely, to keep from walking away from everything I'd ever known. And so to get to a place that you understand peace, and that you understand what it means to be so close to not having a good mental part of yourself. Like, I have peeped over the edge of crazy, okay? So I know what it means to almost not be able to come back. And so to fight to get to peace in my life and good mental well-being, and to finally understand emotional health, I will allow nothing and no one to jeopardize me. And so if that means that you have to go in order for me to maintain what I have fought so hard for, then that's what has to happen. Because if you weren't doing things to jeopardize my well-being, you wouldn't have to go.
Right.
So I'm not put anybody out of my life. But the only reason I come to the conclusion that maybe you can't stay here is because of whatever it is you will not stop doing. And so to me, that is the most important thing to me, is my emotional well-being. And you cannot jeopardize it. I won't allow it.
I think the importance is you being in tune with yourself, which means you have had to have spent some time with yourself. And many of us spend time at work. We spend time in the gym. We spend time reading books. We spend time with people. We spend time shopping, but we don't enjoy spending time with ourselves. What does it mean almost to lock yourself in a room and sit with you, sit with your thoughts, sit with the things that are uncomfortable about you? We want to know who we are, but we don't want to spend time with ourselves. We'll spend time with everybody else. But when you really, really sit with you and you can say, this is not a pretty picture. I don't like what I'm seeing. I need to change this. I remember when I prayed one day and I told God, I said, God, I need you to show me. And I had heard somebody else say it. So I took it on, and I was younger. And when he really took time and showed me and I saw it, I cried. I was like, that can't be me. But it was. But what I did is I took what he showed me and I began to write about that down. And then I began to ask him, help me evolve, help me develop, help me to rid some of this stuff that I see that is unhealthy. And we did some coaching. You and I talked, and one of the things that came to me was you drew me in a circle and you showed me all the things that I was attached to. And then you said, what in this do you need to keep? And I was like, I was pouring out way more than what was coming in. Giving. when I really didn't need to be giving. I needed to be sitting somewhere and learning about who I was and those stages of my life. So the importance of sitting with someone and seeing and understanding that growth does come in phases, and there are some things you do have to rid. One thing I wrote down was letting go. That's a part of our growth. As we are growing, everything doesn't get to go with us too. I was thinking of just now of an old suitcase, and you just dragging you got 3-4 suitcases with a whole bunch of stuff in there. It's just like a trip. When you leave your house, you don't take your whole house on your on your vacation. You take the pieces that you are going to need. And that means you have to sit and you have to think about what you're going to need on the journey. Well, in this journey of life, we have to see what we're going to need. And some things you have to decide, this no longer works for me. And there was a space and time that I couldn't even say, no, I'm not going to do that. No, that doesn't work. I had to say, I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me, until I got enough courage and stamina and I could stand up for Sean and say, nope, not doing that. That doesn't work. And we have to learn the art of no, and the healthiness of no.
Remember, we used to practice all the different ways you could start to learn to say no. And I've done it with a lot of people, because there was a time in my life I didn't know how to say no either, but I learned how to say no. One of the points you touched on was spending time. In order to know myself that way, I have spent time. And that's something that when I have worked with other people, one of the things I ask right away, do you want to feel better or do you want to change? Because the conversation is going to be different depending on which one you want to do. We can get you to feel better, but you want to change. Change requires some time. It's going to require everything of you, and so I have spent a lot of time alone. I've spent a lot of time with God. I've spent a lot of time still writing, and I still write to this day. I'm an advocate, for journaling, because it saves my life. And I believe it'll save whoever's listening. If you don't know what else to do, start writing it down. If you don't know who to tell, just start writing it down. And be honest in your writing. Nobody's going to read it where somebody can read it, but tell the truth to yourself. If you're going to lie to other people, at least don't lie to you. If you can just get to that part, just tell yourself the truth. Who am I? Be honest with who you are. And the answers sometimes come while you're writing. I've gotten many answers about my situations as I'm writing. I'll even say it in almost like third person. Okay, this answer just came to me as I'm writing. I will literally have the questions and find the answers during the process of writing. So spending time with yourself is a good thing. Doesn't mean you're lonely. It just means you need time alone. How can you hear if all you ever hear is everybody else's voice, but you don't know your own voice? You have to get to where you know your voice and the voice of God. So you at some point have to spend some time alone. The other thing you said about letting go, I talk all the time about how we just don't let go of things. I was just getting more stuff to do today to take to Goodwill. And then I found myself folding back up, putting them back up, putting them back, because I just can't seem to let it go yet. But we will live in a house that's falling down around us, and we'll be like, don't want to let that house go. We don't want to let that car go because we bought it when we was 16 or graduated or whatever, and we don't want to let relationships go when they no longer serve the purpose they're supposed to serve in our lives. If it's making you, I don't want to say the word happy, because happy can be fleeting, and you're not always going to be happy with somebody. But it shouldn't be making you miserable. It shouldn't be having that place in your life. And if you can't walk away from a situation, find a way to not always be around the situation. You can't, of course, you can't put it, but you can lessen your time around that person. You can lessen the time you talk to them. That's a part of having boundaries too. So boundaries come in a lot of forms. They don't just come in, I don't never want to talk to you again. They come in, I can't talk to you as much.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. And I think it's important for you to tap in and to see when something is draining your energy. It's draining your mental well-being, your emotionals because I feel like sometimes we have many of them. But your emotions, you can step into a room, or you can see when someone comes into your atmosphere and you're like, ooh, I changed. It's like being in tune with you.
Yeah. And you got to get to where you can recognize that.
Absolutely.
You can't depend on other people to recognize your own intuition. You got to develop your own. God, you came here with intuition. You got to develop it.
Right. And being okay to step out. I've stepped into rooms and I could feel immediately the room wasn't right. And my something in me started turning. And I have gotten dressed, gone to spaces, and 45 minutes later, I am back at home. I thought you were going, something about it wasn't right. And
Yes.
instead of me trying to fit into whatever that was, I've removed myself because my well-being, my emotional place is important to me. And I exited stage left quickly.
Yeah.
But say that again.
I have done the same thing. Yeah.
But that only comes from being in tune with, look, to thy own self be true. And I think that is so important. We're not always true to ourselves. We don't take care of ourselves the way that we should. Earlier, you talked a tad bit about depression. Can you tap on that?
Oh, depression and I were such good friends at one point in my life. I wrote a goodbye letter to it.
I love it.
It's in the book. It was a part of my journaling. There came a day when I just said, you know what, I just can't do this no more. I don't want to. We don't go together no more. We got to break up, you know. But where did that come from? It came from not telling my truth. I truly believe that aside from clinical depression, because there's different types of depression,
Correct.
but the depression we're talking about comes from not being true self, not telling your truth, and trying everything you know how to live other people's truth. And that will cause you to not want to get out of bed in the morning, cause you not want to go to work. It'll cause you to want to hide, just be in the dark, because you're trying to find a way to live this life everybody else thinks like you. And the life that I'm actually living doesn't even feel right to me. But I'm really trying. And one of the things, a week before my mother died, she asked me at Christmas dinner, "Are you okay?" Because she knew me well enough to know nobody had asked me my mom died. And she said, "Are you okay?" One of the things I had most, if I'm ever going to do anything, was that I lied that. And I said I was okay. Instead of tapping into her wisdom, could have changed the whole trajectory. There might not have been in my soul had I just not lied and pretended. But I did. And she didn't get a chance to know what else was wrong, because he died a week later. And I just wish that I had been able to be honest with myself, because I was depressed. I had been depressed for a while, and that lasted for several years. So as I wrote, and little by little, there came a point that I just didn't want to do anymore. Something in me rose up and said, "Hey, enough already. How do we get out of here? Can we do better? How do we stop living this?"
Right.
And I said, "I don't need you anymore." This depression, like it comes and you covers you up and won't let anybody bother you. It makes you believe it is everything you need. And I just said, "I don't need you anymore. I'm gonna let you. I need you to let me." Whatever. I didn't look.
And I think that's a part of our growth journey, is making a conscious effort to push through when you acknowledge this is where I am. I know we both have dealt with spaces of depression. And I often tell my story of how I believe I called you that one day when I was out, how I had gotten across town and then didn't know where I was and how I got there. And I was thinking, what in the world? And one thing I'm grateful for was those three little people that God gave me. But that was my like my grounding. Like, God, I gotta be okay. If nothing else, I they need me, you know, and I need you to keep my mind. And we both have told God that no matter what happens, could you please just don't
Yeah.
let me lose my mind.
Yeah. I was
You know,
I was in trouble. I didn't know when it was going to end, how to get out, but I knew enough to say, God, keep my mind. I knew if I could just keep my mind, I would eventually unravel all of it. And my ground was my dad. I was taking care of my dad, and I didn't want him to the care of somebody, so I always find my way back because he needed me.
right. And because there was nobody to help you through, you worked so hard. And then here I come along, and you were able to help me in so many areas of my life, our lives, without us talking about our lives. From children, our lives mirror each other so much.
Yes.
So it's amazing how we are linked together with people that can benefit us when we want someone in our life. And I feel that our sisterhood, our friendship has been nothing but a blessing. We weren't even looking for each other, and now it seems like just all of our adult lives really we have been together.
Yes.
And we've had to talk to each other even about, you know, from parenting young children to what do we do now? We're parenting adult children, which means our space has changed.
Yes.
Because the way we once had to care for them, we don't care for them. And they rest on us differently as adults versus when they were 12 and 10 and 6 and 5. And so, and then our children are interconnected because they were little people together.
Yes.
So we have grown and seen them evolve. And so that is a good space for us to be in. Yeah.
We each have one grandchild too. That's fun.
And they are girls.
And
And they are girls, and they are glam girls. So you
yes,
know, and they're dramatic, and they're loving, and they're us. They're
both
us.
very sweet. Yes.
So I have some words for you. Tell me your thoughts. These are words that we have talked about, and I didn't tell you what they were going to be.
Mm.
But one word is procrastination.
Mm. What do I think of procrastination? Well, through my own, I started turning over all of the things that people have always told us we were or beat us down with. And my definition and understanding of procrastination is a little different than most people. Now, don't get me wrong, procrastination is a real thing. I do it often. I procrastinate like anybody else. I
always say I do my best work. 9th hour. But I'm like, how do you know? Because if you wait to always do it, how do you know that this is your very best? You know,
but it came to me one day that what we call procrastination all the time could simply be, this is how I operate. This is how I work. This is my business. This is my timing. Because if I'm trying to if you say, well, it's better to do your work in the morning, to get your work done in the morning. But if it's not, for me, I'm not procrastinating. I'm just waiting till my window opens. I have my own window. And my window doesn't have to look like your window. And so sometimes what we're procrastinating is just learning how our system works within us. So for those who feel like I'm such a huge procrastinator, maybe you just stay up at night and get what you need done when the rest of us are sleeping. And that's how your internal clock works. And there is nothing wrong with that if you just accept how you operate and stop trying to make it be how I operate.
All right. Another word, growth.
What do I think of growth? How would I define growth? Only you know what growth is. Only you know if you're growing. It may not look like you're growing to other people, but you will know if you're growing by taking into consideration where you've been. What does it look like for you? Where did you want to get to? There are times when I don't feel like, I was going to say I'm not. No, there's never times when I don't feel like I'm growing. No, because I know I'm growing because I'm always planting a seed to grow. You know, when I look back at who would ever believe? Not me, not me. Never would have believed. My best friend would have me on her show talking about emotional well-being and mental health. There was no fruits in my basket. Like my basket was just devoid. You say she's too fruit shorted. No, my basket was empty. So the fact that I've grown enough to have fruit in my basket and to be able to sit here and share with people things about emotional well-being and mental health is just short of astounding to me still. I've never seen this happening when I started journaling. I would have never seen that. So growth can be different for you as it is for me, but only you know if you're growing. And if you know you're not growing, tell yourself the truth and then ask yourself, how can I grow and where do I need?
Excellent, excellent. Emotional forgiveness.
Ooh, emotional forgiveness. Wow, good. Well, what I say about emotional forgiveness, first of all, I think it has to begin with you, like most things. They have to begin with you. If we stop looking outside ourselves, we would heal faster, we would grow quicker, we would be better sooner. Emotional forgiveness, first of all, has to come from within because we all have things that we regret doing, we wish we hadn't said, people that we've been people that wish we hadn't been. So emotionally, I have to forgive myself for that in order for me to become emotionally well. Um, just as we forgive other people and they always not for it's not for them, it's the same with emotional forgiveness. It's not for them, it's for you. So you have to forgive yourself emotionally and let something go so that you can move, be emotionally well and you can grow.
I like that's good. Your closet.
Your client. Now, why did you ask me your client?
Because we've always talked about when your car is junky, closet is not in order. That contributes to where our spaces, where we are in life and our spaces. So I brought up the word closet.
I think we had this conversation years ago about because I've had many discoveries and Sean has been one of the first people I'll call best friend. Listen to this. You know, I was journaling and da 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 da, and then I throw up all over her about my newfound revelations or whatever. But one of the times was about your closet being a reflection of how you are emotionally. You know, it might be one of the reasons why I'm constantly organized. If you call me on any given day, what are you doing? Organizing? What are you organizing? I'm organizing. I know my degree is in organizational management, and I don't know if that has anything to do with it. Maybe that's why I have a degree in that because I'm an organizer. And I used to be the most unorganized person you ever want to know. If you talk to people that were friends with me early in my life, they just will not even believe that I'm an organized person because that came with growth. That came with me attaching my well-being to being disorganized and organized. I think it has a true connection, and I'm constantly organizing something because I think it's connected to how I feel emotionally with my being, my mental health. It just needs to be intact because when things are chaotic and all out of order, you usually feel that from. So,
Well, either.
and yeah, you feel it in here as much as you can. I think organize. How little you have or how much you have, nobody can take that away from you. You can organize for, if that's all you got. So that is directly connected to me to chaos within.
I think that's good. And I can attest, I cannot tell you how many times you were in that closet cleaning up.
I'm
And
all
you did it one way, and 2 weeks later, you'd be like, I tried to reorganize. I'm thinking, what are you doing now?
all
But
the time.
there is nothing like your closet being together. And when you walk into it or you open it up and everything is in its space. And I believe when most of us, we were taught when you get up in the morning, you make up your bed, you clean up your room, you do whatever it is that you need to do. And it's something about walking out of the room and walking back into that space. My mother is 88 years old. I was at home a few months ago, and I got up that morning and went to do something, and I didn't make up my bed. And for those who know, my mom's dealing with Alzheimer's, and she happened to come over into my side of the house where I was, and she said, "Who got out of this bed and didn't make it up?" And I thought, that's the only thing you can think about. I jumped up to handle something, but in her brain, the first thing you do when you get up is you make your bed and you clean up. And I think that goes over into our emotions. When you get up, you got to make the bed. You got to take care of what needs to be taken care of first. And that is our spirit. It is our mind. It is our soul. We've got to protect those things and not let people come in and run all over and trample all over them, or us trample all over it and act like it doesn't matter, because it does. Because it does.
I just had a thought about the cleaning up part. Me being a creative person who has 10 hobbies I could name right now. Like,
do them all at one time.
I can try to do them all in one day. I can rattle them all. I have like lots. I am never bored. I have lots of hobby things to do. So with being a creative, sometimes your space, everything, you try to put it all out at one time in your space. But there is a difference in happy chaos,
right,
and just chaos. And your spirit does know which one it is. If you didn't wash dishes all day because you're running around doing hobbies and you're happy, your spirit knows that you're going to get to those dishes before the day is. Right. But if you got dishes over there all day because you just can't barely lift your head, or you want to just eat emotionally all day, whatever, your spirit knows that you're not doing that well. The least you can do is tell yourself the truth. You don't have to wash it. You don't have to clean up, but don't lie to yourself and say you're not depressed or sad or whatever it is. Just deal with it. And then maybe you'll get yourself together enough to be like, okay. Because sometimes I just have to just jump in there and do it. Not because I'm depressed, but I don't really want to do it because I want to get to my hobbies. Right. But you just, you can let things just get out of hand. And not only out of hand in the physical space, but in your mental space.
Agreed.
You always got to clean it up.
Starting over.
Wow, I know about that. I think that you are never too old to start over, and you need to start over often. I do. I believe in starting over often because life is big if you allow it to be. It's also small if you allow it to be. You know, there's always been this running joke with among my friends and family. I do a lot of things. You know, girl, what you doing there? And I'll whatever you want. Because who are you to box me in to have this small life? You can ask me almost about anything, and I probably know a little bit about it. I've been to a lot of places. I've had a lot of lives. But why wouldn't I try to get all the juice out of the lemon? I'm not going to be here at some point, and I'm not coming back. So why wouldn't I try to get all the juice out of the lemon? So if it takes me starting over again and again and again, that's what I'm willing to do to get all the juice out of the lemon. Because maybe wherever I am is just not giving me what I need. I don't want to be afraid to start over, whatever that looks like. I often say I should have been more like Elizabeth Taylor and been on maybe my 7th or 8th marriage. Because why wouldn't I? Hey, life is huge. I know my best friend is shaking head. My best friend got married 2, 3, 4 more times, maybe. Whatever. Instead of being boxed in to what society says, you know, you just should be this like this. And no, you shouldn't be like anything. You should be like your personality. Follow it. Go with it. I say start over as often as you can.
And sometimes we feel bad about starting over, or we think that we're too old to start over. I love to hear people when they're at 60, 65 saying, I decided I was going back to school to be a nurse. And you're like, you know how much schooling you take? And they have found a love at 70 and being a nurse because they took their life in their own hands. They decided it was something that they wanted to do and they went for it. And we need to learn to go for it because life is lifing, but you'll get stuck sitting on the couch watching Netflix series week after week, month after month, and you won't living.
Time is going to pass. So you may as well do whatever it is you want to do. People find love at 65 and 70 years old now. Grandma Moses didn't even paint her first picture till she was in her 70s. I'm never going to stop saying that. She didn't even know she was an artist till she was like 70.
Right.
But what's that lady man with the makeup? Mary Kay. She didn't even start that business till she was like 65. It's like people don't even know these people that we look up to and we have all these great accolades and things to give and say, they weren't even who they were until they were in their 60s. So why should we at 30 and 40, not me, 30 and 40, feel like I got to stop here? I can't afford to start over. I can't start over. You can always start.
Excellent. And then our last one, which is what we've talked about tonight. What would you leave? I know you don't coach anymore, or you do it very minimally. What would you share with someone about their emotional health, their emotional journey? What would you say to our guest?
If you haven't started, please start, because it will change your life. Becoming emotional changed my life. I know how to become emotionally well. I would not have had to trade my life, because that's what happens when you're not emotionally well. You give up a life in search of another life. And the problem is you. It's just dragging you around where you go. It's not always the surroundings. Mostly you've got to start, and you've got to start telling the truth about you. And then you can see if you need to trade your life for another life. Then you can see where you need to go instead of just stuck in the dark for so long and being depressed. All the things that I cannot express enough. Please stop putting so much of your happiness on somebody else's shoulders. They don't owe you that. They didn't come here holding your, and they won't leave here holding, because they got to work out their own mess too. And they don't have the time that you want you to work your mess out. Work your mess out so that you can be valuable in the relationship that you're in. No matter the relationship, even if it's just a friendship, it's very complicated to have to carry people in conversation. Even, oh, I can't say that because then she's gonna. Oh, I can't say that. Or I can't. I can't do because you don't have emotional well-being,
right,
to even be sometimes. So work out your best in your own head. Find a journey to get on. It may not look like mine. It may not look like Sean's, but there is one for you. Figure out what you do that fits you, and it will change your life. There's not enough out there.
Well, I think tonight has been just awesome, sharing about emotional well-being and emotional stability. It is an ever-going journey. You never stop. And that's what I want to share with
I haven't stopped.
You never arrive. You always need to be checking in with yourself.
Yes,
and I say that often. When's the last time you checked in with you? Check in with you. Just this week, last week, I was sitting in a space and something popped up and I was like, oh, something else I got to work on. And one thing I know is that I can't change it. So I'm quick to tell God, you know what? Hey, I'm your kid. You're my daddy. You don't have to work on this. I mean, I'm bringing it to you. And I'm believing that you're going to help me with it, because if it was up to me, I wouldn't be dealing with it. So here it is. So I need your help with it.
Here's one thing that for anybody that's listening, you say, well, I never have any time or whatever. One thing that I've started doing, I fly quite a bit because all my family live in Texas for some reason. But so I fly quite a bit, and I started using my flying time. It's a 2.5 hour flight. I started using time to reflect and to check in. I use it to journal. I use it to read books that are going to challenge me. So I started using like my own little show. going and coming. So find there's a time when you are, I don't care that you are alone. Use that time to reflect and check in.
And I think we're going to end with that. If you don't have enough time, then you've got to check and see what things are happening in your life, what using your time. Because a lot of times there's things that we filled that we can get rid of. Is it absolutely necessary? I was sharing with my daughter the other day. I said, you got to know what is necessary and what you can put to the side and do that at a later time. And that comes from the person that believe Dee will tell you, there was a time I lived out everything in one day. I was trying to get it all in. Now I can sit back and relax. And I'm like, is this what relaxing is all about? I can't believe I used to be in the street and busy all the time. Why? Because I like me. I was running for me. I was staying so busy that I didn't have to reflect and see me. Now I can sit with me and I'm okay with that. And that comes from growing emotionally and being okay with who I am. And when growth is needed, we work and we do the work in order for us to grow and evolve.
Relaxing is a part of self-care. As we really need to get onto that. Relaxing, just running to the nail salon, getting our done, hair done, all these different things we run to do. Relaxing, just doing nothing is something.
You don't even have to have the TV on. Just relax.
Just
quiet. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Dee, for taking time with us here on The Space, where we grow, we change, and we evolve. It has been awesome having you. So thank you for joining us. I am sure when next season comes, somewhere in the fall, we will be back on again. So thank you again. Any final words before we dismiss? Just like we're in church before we exit the stage.
There's one out there that this was for, and I hope that you take it and you run with it, do something with it, because you might be unhappy right now, but you don't have to stand. You can change your life. Do the work.
Thank you. Well, thank you. On The Space, where we grow, we change, and we evolve. We do it emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Such a rich evening dealing with emotional health and how we can protect our emotional health, how we grow. Be willing to sit with yourself. Be willing to know that you are just that important, that you alone can make a difference in your own life. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next month on The Space.